rest my feelings, start my mind.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here for the squad announcement press conference for the Jamaica senior women's national team as we get set to take on South Africa in two friendly internationals at the Montego Bay Sports Complex in St. James, Jamaica. This will be the first time we're having friendlies for a senior women's national team since November 2022 when we took on Paraguay in a pair of games, one in Montego Bay and one in Kingston. But of course, the first time we're welcoming our girls back home since the Olympic playing against Canada, which was September of last year. As we know, next year, 2025, is a very busy year for various national teams when it comes to under 17 in both genders, under 20 for the women, the senior men in terms of World Cup qualifying and other assignments. And then also our senior women's national team, the Reggae Girlz, as well, as they commence World Cup qualifying for the 2027 World Cup, which will be staged in Brazil. CONCACAF has the same number of slot allocation as the 2023 tournament, 4 automatic tickets, and 2 teams will head to the Intercontinental playoffs. So to commence proceedings, what we're going to do is have a few opening remarks from head coach of the Jamaica senior women's national team, Coach Hubert Busby, and then we will get right to the squad. So Coach Busby, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. We look forward to hearing from you in terms of recap of the camp in France and what the last 3.5 weeks have been for you. So Coach Busby, you can unmute and go right ahead. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Simon. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us here this morning. As Simon alluded to, we're very excited to have the girls back on home soil in front of their adoring fans and supporters. Before we speak a little bit more about the upcoming games, just want to touch base regarding the France match. Obviously, it was a short camp, 6 days, and it wasn't the result we would have wanted. But there was a lot of learnings and positives to take away from the camp, especially in the growth areas about some of the things we're trying to do, in terms of playing out of the back and trying to keep possession a bit more. Not all the things that we tried obviously came off, but post-analysis, I think there were some really good positive points to take away, and areas and players who I thought we did really well on the night. Obviously, still a lot of growth areas and things that we really need to work on, and really need to ensure that we're cutting down on, the individual mistakes at crucial times, improving our decision making at the crucial times, because, the game, football is a game of moments, and there's moments in that post analysis where, again, at this level, you go down one end, it's a 3 versus 3 and we have an opportunity to finish and we don't. And within, 10, 15 minutes, you can find the ball in the back of your own net. So, those are the crucial moments that we really need to work on to be better going forward. And again, with that said, we were able to integrate some new players into the squad, into the group. I thought those players who came in who kind of made their debuts and did some things, did really well. But more importantly, was really pleased in terms of how they integrated into the group away from the field as well. Because as we know, that's really important, keeping that positive team culture, and for the players being, not just accepting, but obviously understanding that it is a competitive environment and new players will continue to come in. But we're all working towards the same goal. We're all working towards the same aim. And that obviously is to get our ticket booked to the World Cup in Brazil in 2027. So outside of that, planning, literally started right after that. I flew up to England immediately after that camp. Coach Dion Burton and I went to the South Africa-England game. It was still within the window in Coventry. And we were able to, we were hosted by the English FA. We were able to go and watch England versus South Africa. As we know, it's great to be able to watch games on film and Wisecout, but there's nothing that beats watching a game in person. South Africa was a very, very formidable opponent. They gave England a very good go on the night, and in some cases probably should have done a lot better in front of their own goal, in front of the opposition goal. But it's going to be a good game. They're a well-coached team. Obviously, their coach has been around for a while. I'll speak about that a little bit later on, but we're able to evaluate them in that environment. So it was good to see. While I was there, continued to meet with some clubs, some agents, prospective players, and meeting with clubs to ensure that, in this sort of day and age now, as we know, that the hot topic right now is player load and player management. So it's really important that the clubs know from their perspective that when players are coming into our environment, they're well looked after, their well-being, in terms of the load management, in terms of the data that we provide them. So we've got a lot of positive feedback from the clubs. They're really happy with the way that we communicate with them and our high performance staff and our medical staff. So we're doing a lot of work away to make sure that we're monitoring those players. In that time, we are evaluating players on a weekly basis. We have 62 players in that pool. Of that, more than half of that, or close to that rather, are players currently playing the NCAA system. As most of you know, the NCAA, the National Collegiate Association in America, they're not obliged to release players during the FIFA window. So that's why some of those players haven't come in. And to be fair to those players, they're right in the midst of a championship season. As well as that, they've got school to really contend with. And so we try not to, unless there's a prior arrangement with the colleges, we try not to really bring them in and allow for them to focus on their schoolwork and play. But we've been monitoring those players, and some of them are doing really, really well. A lot of them are in their championship right now, so we look forward to watching them in the next couple of weeks and obviously integrating them into the group as well. The other stuff we've been doing, which is really, really important, is the idea of the integration amongst all teams. So a couple of weeks ago, I was out with the U20s with Coach Bradford, evaluating them, working closely with the U17 coach, Letman, as well. So there's a lot of dialogue on a weekly basis in terms of the evaluation and integration of players and matriculating of players throughout the system. And that'll prove to be beneficial going forward down the line, as well as having open dialogue with obviously the technical committee and the technical director and the head of the technical committee as well, to make sure everyone's on the same page in terms of what we're trying to do going forward. And then lastly, it's been great to really kind of work and spend some time with Coach McLaren and his staff as well, which has been really positive. And again, how there's some commonality and the need for commonality amongst our programs and all the things that we're looking to do. So yeah, it's been busy, it's been intense, but it's been very productive. And yeah, we're looking forward to these upcoming games next week.
Yeah, thank you very much, Coach. Much appreciated for your opening remarks. A reminder to members of the media in terms of the upcoming matches. November 29, the kickoff will be 8 p.m. Jamaica time, and on December 2nd, the kickoff will be 7:30 p.m. Jamaica time. And before Coach Busby goes into the squad, just a little tidbit in terms of Jamaica and South Africa. Quite a number of similarities. They're both nations' first Women's World Cup was 2019 in France, and both teams' first appearance in the men's equivalent was France 98 as well. And of course, as we know, in 2023 in Australia and New Zealand, both countries made it to the round of 16 of the World Cup for the first time in each nation's history. So, Coach, we can now proceed in relation to the squad for the upcoming friendly internationals.
Thanks, Simon. So the squad for these upcoming games will consist of Rebecca Spencer, Leah Brooks, Siobhan Wilson, Alison Swaby, Conyers Plummer, Naya Cardoza, Diane Sampson, Chantel Swaby, Atlanta Primus, Destiny Powell, Peyton McNamara, Jade Bailey, Drew Spence, Denisha Batwood, Sade Adamalukum, Paige Bailey Gale, Khadija Bunny Shaw, Kayla McKenna, Davia Richards, Jody Brown, Shania Hales, Tiffany Cameron, and Chanel Buckley. That will comprise the players that will be involved in the South Africa series coming up. So if there's any questions at this time, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Coach. Much appreciated there. And for persons that are here with us on Zoom, the graphic is on your screen as well, so that you can be able to take a look at it as well. As usual, please raise your hand, and after myself indicating you, then you can be able to unmute and ask Coach Busby your questions. All right, so you may proceed to raise your hand via Zoom, and then once you're identified, then you can unmute so that you can be able to pose a question. So thank you very much for your cooperation. So you may continue, you may go ahead now, raise your hand, and we can commence the question and answer portion of the squad announcement press conference. Okay, let's hear from Bryce from the Jamaica Gleaner. Good morning, Bryce. Go ahead.
Good morning, Simon, and good morning, Coach, as well. Something I've noticed that you've done since your time here is that there's always been a consistent presence of young players in the squad, the likes of Laya Brooks or Destiny Powell, Davia Richards. How important is it that these players are able to get the experience with the senior team, as well as possibly get minutes on the field in regards to keeping the program for a long term?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question, and you're spot on. It's really important. The one thing that, like I said, I'm tasked with, my responsibility is to get this team to the 2027 World Cup. But with that said, we want to ensure that we're going to every single World Cup afterwards. So it's not about having an eye on the 2020-31. It's about integrating young, talented players into the group to see where they are, keep the group fresh, challenge the group, keep it competitive. But also to ensure that, with the success that we've had, and the average age, I believe, is about 26 years of age. So they'll probably be about 28 going forward. We always have to make sure that there is rooms for young, talented players to make their way through. We've seen how important it is on both genders. And it's really important for us to go kind of, moving forward to that these players are given a chance, especially the young ones, not just about being national team players, but understanding what it means to be a pro. And I think in terms of a lot of our young local players are coming through, we're still working hard to do we can to professionalize our Women's Premier League, professionalize some of the academies and professional development programs that are on the island. But for them to integrate and be around the likes of a Bunny Shaw, or a Drew Spence, or a Kanya Plummer, or a Jody Brown, Denisha Blackwood, it's so vitally important because those are their role models. They understand, they role model the most in terms of what that means to be a pro, and all the other things that are taking place, all the other learnings that they're getting, the nuances, the things that they're picking up. So vitally important to have them in the program. So yes, it's deliberate, and obviously we're looking to do some more of that going forward.
All right, thank you, Bryce. Do you have a follow-up for Coach Busby? Okay, go ahead.
Sure, yeah. I remember a few years ago, after the team had qualified for the World Cup, Drew Spence had said that if the program wants to keep continuing at this level, that the team needs consistent games against top oppositions. How important is it for you as a coach to get the get the team these games, as well as two, to potentially go forward and win these games, not just compete, but to get positive results going forward, for the confidence of the girls, as well as the Jamaican public who are watching along and supporting these girls?
Yeah, again, another great question. I said, look, the reality is for a lot of the core of those players, as we know, there's almost a 9-month gap with them not sort of coming together. Obviously, all that stuff is in the past now, and we're moving forward. But as far as that comes to the field, it's a reintegration, and so, bringing these players together and playing these matches and getting used to them, these players, the familiarity of playing with the player in front of you, playing behind you. We don't have that what they get in the club day-to-day basis, where they're building relationships. We almost have to start again in some aspects. Now, the good part is, from a chemistry standpoint, it's there, but you can't get away from the idea that, it'll take some time, especially when we're trying to integrate some new things. So especially as we're trying to integrate some new principles of how we want to play into the group, it's taken a little bit longer. Look, at the end of the day, any coach would have said, would you want to come back against what would have been the future silver medalists at the Olympics and play France as your first 3 games coming back in? Probably not ideal. But again, as we said, we don't back away from matches. We don't back away from oppositions. And it's given us a good litmus test in terms of where we are and where we need to be. And yeah, I've maintained that coming in. These are the games that get us ready for the World Cup. We'll play a variety of different games coming through. But yeah, playing games and more importantly, having these camps to evaluate and bring teams together to implement what we want to do on the pitch, things that we need to correct in terms of analysts and breaking down video individually with players or with blocks. So, midfielders are looking at things, defenders are looking at things, forwards are looking at things, goalkeepers are looking at things. Those are vitally important with the times that we have together to ensure that those things happen. And we're putting things in place to make sure that, going into the next year that we continue to play good matches, but we're also having the requisite camps and evaluations and being creative within the windows or outside of the windows to be able to evaluate talent as well. So yeah, good question. And again, something that we have to continue to do is play top quality opposition.
Thank you very much, Bryce. Let's now hear from Jason Hall. Go ahead.
Thank you. Jason Hall, Jason Guna TV here. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Jason.
Hope you're doing well. I just had a question on a player that caught my eye in the last game against France. It was a very tough game for us. I know we're trying to instill some new principles, and perhaps in the past against a team like France, we wouldn't try some of the things we're trying. One of the players that I thought had the technicality and the ability to be able to match those principles was Taylor Hines. Can you speak to her omission and just the thoughts about your overall thoughts about that player?
Yeah, listen, Taylor's a big part of what we're looking to do. Obviously, she's declared someone that we've been speaking to in a while, and I think like everything else with young players, they wanted to kind of settle into their professional career first, and she's been able to do that. And she's the captain of Liverpool. Her mission is a little bit more of a situation now that we're looking at this particular time to make sure all the necessary documents and paperwork are in place. So just giving her some time to do that while looking at some other players in the meantime. But rest assured, she's a big part of what we're looking to do going forward. And I concur with your assessment. Again, for a player at 25 to be the captain of one of the biggest clubs in the world and one of the biggest teams in the Women's Super League is no easy feat. And it speaks volumes of her and her qualities, not just as players, but as a leader. And that's why we're excited to integrate her into the group going forward.
You have a follow-up, Jason?
Yes. I noticed as well the inclusion of Destiny Powell, Chanel Buckley, and Davia Richards. I happen to know that Chanel especially had a really good season overseas in college. How pleased are you with some of the development of some of the local players that are included in the squad?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to her a couple of days. She's in the National Junior College Championships this weekend, so we wish her best of luck with that. And ironically, yesterday I got another 2-3 calls from college coaches at Division I schools looking for her to come in as a transfer. So if she continues to do well, I think obviously like all the young players, she's dynamic in the final third. I think her, final product, like all young players and decision making, still needs to improve. But again, when I alluded to bringing in young players to have, role models to look at, I mean, what better way for her to see the likes of Jody Brown, up close again, Hales up close, players who are playing those positions. She's a young talent that has a huge upside, but she has a lot of growth that needs to happen as well. And so, we're trying to give her the opportunity to come into the squad, be herself, be relaxed. One of the things I'm really, really proud of is the fact that, these older players do such a good job. The sisterhood in this team is unbelievable. It's always been the strength. But we just talked staff call, they do a really good job of looking after these players. And so I've no doubt she's going to have a really good camp, just because of the fact that I know that she has a huge upside going forward, and looking forward to see how she integrates into the senior team. Destiny Powell, same thing. You know, she's a U20 player. Saw her a couple of weeks ago at camp. You know, has done well. Even when she's come in and played some professional matches in the CONCACAF Gold Champions Cup, she's done well. She's in a good training environment, both with Fraser's Whip and Football's Freedom. So I'm monitoring her there as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to her, and the same thing with Davia. So yeah, they're all doing really well. Davia, we took to France. Her attitude was fantastic. At times, she played a little bit out of position to help the group. Just got on with it, smile on her face, asked a lot of questions. So yeah, really happy with the way that they're progressing, and look forward to seeing how they do in the next few months and years as well.
Thank you very much, Jason. Much appreciated. Any more questions, please raise your hand, and then after you're identified, you can unmute. So we've heard from Bryce, we've heard from Jason. Anyone else? You can raise your hand now. All right, let's hear from CC Sports Lab. You may go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. Thanks for having me here. Question, Coach. With regards to the squad, I realize that there's a balance between the midfield, forwards, and defenders, 7 players each. Can you elaborate on why you chose to go with 2 goalkeepers instead of 3?
Well, we just, in terms of availability, I think the most important thing is there's some young goalkeepers coming through. One's in college. They didn't necessarily get the minutes that they needed to get, that I felt were the prerequisite coming in. I think if we're going to be consistent with our messaging about players who are in form as one of the criteria, players who are playing for the most part consistent, or they're in really good environments, I think that was one. Obviously, Sydney Schneider had personal reasons, or she would have been in. There's a couple other young players, goalkeepers, that we're looking at, but just again through college can't quite make it. So that's the reason why for the goalkeeping side. And then the good thing is within that squad, defenders, midfielders, forwards, there's a lot of versatility. Players can play in multiple positions. Denisha can play in the back. She can play in the front line. Tiffany did the same thing. Diane Sampson does the same thing. Paige Bailey-Gale can do some of those things. So there's versatility in that. It allows for us to be a little bit flexible going into both games, and especially if we want to. And it was done so deliberately. But yeah, we look forward to seeing those players come in. But yeah, there's a little bit, I'd say, method to the madness, but there's some rationale. So it's a good question you ask, and that's sort of the reason why we kind of balance it out that way as well.
Do you have a follow-up, CC? Go ahead.
All right. So just in terms of following up, you heard me? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes. In terms of the matches going forward, like, what's your expectation of the squad in terms of how far they can go and what you're looking forward to towards in 2025 and closing out this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think the most important thing is to build on performance. Like I said, there's some individual things that we want to correct. The first thing we need to do is, from one of our objectives is to keep a clean sheet. It's been the basis of our foundation of success, is to be good defensively. Without a doubt, the biggest inclusion into this group is one of the most informed strikers in the world right now, and leader in Bunny Shaw. She's been in great form, as we all know. So it gives us another option up front to go along with the other attacking options we have. But having her back in the group helps tremendously. So in terms of getting some of the service in the final product. So we're looking to have a good performance. Then that leads to obviously a good result to end up the year. But really, it is also about us continuing to evaluate and to make the proper assessment of the players who continue to kind of move forward that will form the core of this team that will go into the World Cup qualifiers. I mean, that's really the bigger picture. So short term, hey, let's get 2 good performances this week. It's 2 good results, and take that into the February window. That looks to be, constant, from there, looks to be a very busy year that we continue to build on the platform and the foundation that we're laying.
Yep, thank you very much, Cece. Any other questions? You can raise your hand. We can take time for a few more as well. And yeah, just to reiterate what Coach Busby said, yeah, World Cup qualifying for the women does commence next year, 2025, and it will also be carried over into the calendar year of 2026 as well. So World Cup qualifying in more than just one of our national teams, senior men, senior women, U17 across both genders, and of course we have the under-20 women as well. So quite a number of World Cup qualifying action to look forward to in the calendar year of 2025. So any other questions, you may raise your hand and go ahead. Okay, Jason, you have another one? Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, again, coach, just had a question. I've seen a push with the Reggae boys recently in their time in Jamaica when they have windows, trying to have outreach with the fans. Is there anything in line for the girls to do so, since we can kind of try to take advantage of them having a little extended stay in Jamaica?
Well, I think there's some things being worked on as well. I think with the time between games, and ensuring they also get some rest. There's some things that there are being worked on. I don't know exactly when those will be finalized. I do believe that it is vitally important as well. For them to be visible and to do some different things. And with that said, it's important through a long season for them to be able to also take some opportunity to kind of recharge and reset. So again, some of the things are being worked on. I think they'll probably be announced soon. But I also think it's also important outside of that. I think what's vitally important is for us to continue to have more matches when we can and when possible in Jamaica, so that, not just Montego Bay, but obviously, in Kingston, and to do some different things over a long period of time. So it's really important that we continue to bring these role models to the communities to these players, because we're here not just to inspire and unite us as a country, in terms of our sporting, but definitely to inspire the next generation of players, to carry or pass on the torch to the next generation of players coming through as well. So yeah, vitally important, and hopefully we'll get some things done this window. If not, definitely the next.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Jason, do you want to take that, or if somebody else, please raise your hand. We can take one more question to wrap up this press conference for this morning. All right, we'll take CC. You can take the last question. Go ahead.
So, Coach, I noticed you said in terms of having some of the more informed strikers in our squad, and I think goal scoring has been a problem for the team in the past couple of games. Plus, goal leaking, we have leaked quite a number of goals. In terms of going forward, we see you have 7 defenders, and as in the attack is balanced across defenders, midfielders, forwards. How do you plan to address that issue?
Yeah, I think it's really about, if you look back at the game, and again, I talk about moments. If you look at the 3 goals in the last particular game that we conceded, in terms of, there's things about our shape that I thought weren't great at moments, but there are individual errors that kind of led to the goal. And that's about focus. That's about a little bit of form. So making sure that, we recognize those key moments, those danger times where we really need to be switched on. That we, as I alluded to before, one of the main objectives coming in is to keep our clean sheet and to get back to the foundation of making sure that we are solid. So that's vitally important as well. But yeah, it's about making sure that the players understand our distances between the front line, our back line, are really compact in and out of possession, making sure that the players are understanding their roles and responsibilities when we are defending and how we look to transition into attack. And again, that we'll have some more time to do that. It's a little bit difficult when you're already on match day -3 by the time you arrive. The first day is recovery day, and then trying to implement some of those things based on what you see in France and based on some of the things that we want to do. And again, those aren't excuses. That's just the reality. And it goes back to what we're saying all along, is making sure that we're spending some more time together, making sure that players clearly understand their roles and responsibilities. And if they don't, the onus is on us as coaches to get those points across and to make sure that the messages that we're being delivered are taking in the right context so that they can go out there and perform accordingly. So yeah, valid points, things that we've addressed, like I said, in the post-analysis, things that we're looking to address, things in terms of their IDPs. So when they leave camp, these are the things in terms of reflections that you need to take, not just when you're with us. I think one of the things that we're really trying to say to some of our players are, if you're playing regularly and you're doing those things, how do you take some of the principles that we're trying to do into your club environment? The aggression defensively, cutting out some of the mistakes, making sure that you're switched on at all times, trying to support them with feedback. Sometimes when they ask and call us about things they've saw in their club environment, we try to help them as well. Those things are vitally important, and challenging them to, in some cases, we're not getting the minutes they need, is to challenge them to push their way to get more minutes, even with their club environment, and to provide whatever support we can there. So yeah, it's a holistic approach to helping them. They're professional players, but in terms of some of the young ones have just broken through, we have to help them in their club environment, because if they're doing well as well, they come into our environment in better form, full of confidence, and that as well. So everything is under consideration. All those details are being looked at. But again, another valid point, and things that we're looking to address each and every camp and on a weekly basis when they reach out for any sort of feedback that we can give them.
Thank you, CC. We have David Williams. You can ask the last question this morning. Go ahead, David. Good morning.
Morning, coach, and thanks for having me. Coach, I'm seeing here it's saying that it's 17 games without a win. How important is this opportunity to try and get a positive result for the girls, seeing that this is a whole lot of games without actually getting a victory?
Yeah, we're not looking back. I think there's a lot of different reasons for that. That again, I think most of us understand and can appreciate. At the back of September, or going back to literally to the World Cup. So we understand that. But again, it's, when you start looking at wins, it's my job and our job is to win matches. So let's get that out of the way. We're here to win matches, but we're here also to win the most important matches. And every match is important heading up to it. Every opportunity for us to get better and to improve on the performance needs to be taken into account. It's like another. So I said, it's not about the 17 matches, it's about what's the next match. What can we do in terms of the next match? As I sort of alluded to, coming back in to play Brazil, that went on to win the silver medal in the Olympics, and play France. Those are two top 10 oppositions in the world. And think what that means like in global football. But with all that said, we are going to take those matches, and it's better than playing those matches than playing a team that is, ranked 100th in the world. And, we win those matches and the questions aren't being asked because we've won matches and we've eliminated that losing streak. But have you really seen or gotten what we needed to get out of those matches in terms of our baseline, right? Like, where are we at? And these 3 matches has given us a really good indication of things that really where we at in terms of how we need to get implement a lot of different things from a playing perspective. So yeah, to your point, look, no one wants to have everyone wants to end this losing streak, but with everything, it also has to be brought into context. And bringing that into context means that, means that we would have to go back and look at some things that we don't necessarily want to speak about during some times. And we want to talk about where we are now and where we want to go. So our goal is, yes, we're going to go out there to win matches. That's the objective, is to win these 2 matches. But really, it's about us ensuring that the performances are better than the last ones that we had.
All right, thank you, David. Tyrone Davis, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Coach. Thank you, Simon, for having me. Coach, now that you have your team, I think it's about 95 or 98% of the person that we know. How fast can you have them clicking and running to the Reggae Girlz that we used to see and winning matches? How quick can you get this team up and running?
Yeah, that's the objective. Each and every, again, I know everything is end focus, but again, it's about, I sound a little bit of a broken record. It's about getting a group back in. So these 2 games, the more games we play, the more matches we have together, the more that we can get them back to the speed and to the level that we know. But again, it's one of the things that we've noticed. You build a connection over the last 3 years, relationships along the back line, relationships with players in front, and then there's a disconnect between some of that because you're not playing matches together or not together as a group. And then, so that takes time to reintegrate. So we're playing that. And then it takes time to reintegrate when you're playing some top opposition. That always helps. So it doesn't always help, rather. So yeah, we're going to go into this camp for improved performance. And the idea is that, look, we all want to win matches. We all know what that means. We all know the significance behind it. And that's the objective going into these 2 games against, a very quality opponent in South Africa. That still gives us a really good litmus test in terms of where we are and, more importantly, where we need to go. So that is the objective. We want to get the wins. We want to improve performance. And we're hoping that these next 2 games we will see a much more improved performance than we have before. That's for sure.
Thank you very much, Teagat. Coach, thank you very much for your time as well. And thank you very much to the members of the media for being here this morning. This recording will be shared with everyone in the media group right after this press conference. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. A gentle reminder, the match is November 29. That's at 8 p.m. kickoff, and December 2 kickoff is 7:30 p.m. Thank you very much for everybody, and we look forward to seeing you in Montego Bay next week. All right, everybody, have a pleasant rest of the day.
Express my feelings, start my mind.